about coronavirus, but the net effect is that Joe Biden has become a studio candidate. Joe Biden doesn't have to answer any questions on the campaign trail. He doesn't have to encounter any reporters. He can run this whole campaign from a studio. And because of this overarching emergency that we have with coronavirus, he does not have to address anything to do with the Burisma, anything to do with Ukraine Gate, anything to do with Hunter Biden. Getting a $1.5 billion from the government of China, China nuclear group, can't ask that question. We got to talk about coronavirus. All the money going to Burisma through Kolomoisky, their oligarch, their favorite oligarch. Remember, Cofer Black is the CIA guy who comes in with Burisma. Can't ask any questions about Cofer Black. Remember, Cofer Black goes all the way back with Ted Shackley. Take every major covert action, unapproved covert action in the United States and make a list. You get about 20 with Ted Shackley. Who is his understudy? Cofer Black. And then you go down the list with Cofer Black. This is Burisma. Directly ties to Burisma. Remember, Cofer Black is in Zaire with the Rhodesian takeover. Remember, he's the one doing chemical weapons with South Africa against the indigenous population, supposedly the militias in South Africa. Remember, he's in Sudan, dividing Sudan. Remember, he's involved with all these chemical weapons uses in Africa. And I always look to the people who are willing to use chemical weapons. Remember, this is the same crew. Go back to Vietnam with Ted Shackley. This is the same crew with Agent Orange, Dow Chemical, and chemical weapons there. The defoliant Agent Orange was an excuse for the largest laboratory ever in terms of testing chemical weapons. That's the crew you're dealing with. And if you don't think that they would have the wherewithal to close down, let's say, a Fort Detrick last September, to take those engineered viruses, again, that's what they did at Fort Detrick, not speculating. Remember, there's the World Games, the World Military Games in Wuhan in October. Remember, they go to Wuhan, right? All the people from Fort Detrick go to Wuhan. And remember, then there's the outbreak a few weeks later. Again, if you look at the history of Cofer Black over and over, you see that the counterterrorism center that he creates in Sudan, Osama bin Laden, all these boogeymen that are created, it's constantly Cofer Black over and over and over. And I don't know how else to say that delicately. And they have always their chosen proxy to do these illegal actions. And so that they have distance. They can say, oh, plausible deniability, my chosen proxy did it. Before, it was selling illegal weapons, buying embargoed energy resources, was Mark Rich, doing under-the-table deals for uranium in South Africa, getting illegal technology to South Africa, Israel, etc. That was Mark Rich, and it seems like the new kid on the block. The new kid on the block for this crew, this cabal. It's not just one person. It's not just Richard Armitage. It's not just Cofer Black. It's not just Porter Goss. But it's this crew, right, is going to be Kolomoisky. Kolomoisky is this person that's made out to be a Ukrainian, but he's got these business interests in Cyprus, and everything that we've seen with the Manafort trial, with the Rick Gates trial, with Mike Flynn, Papadopoulos, Page, it all goes to Cyprus. George Papadopoulos being probably the most salient person with Victoria Nuland and Alexander Downer negotiating this pipeline. They're putting the money that we send to Ukraine and trying to save that democracy in Eastern Europe, and they're putting it toward their own pocket to do this Eastern Med pipeline. It's just that simple, as well as the takedowns and the winnings, the spoils of war for Libya, Syria, Sudan, and Yemen. So I'll just remind you, everyone says, you're being hard on Kolomoisky. You've really, you're being too tough on him. Remember, we were the ones who told you Braverman met with Kolomoisky in Tel Aviv when Braverman was kind of on the lam. But here he is today in Florida right now. There's Kolomoisky. These ads have been running. I believe her name is Mercosel or Mercursel, but I think it's February. It's Florida 24. But anyway, they're running this ad against her because murder. not just embezzlement, not just bribery, but murder, Kolomoisky. I may have underestimated the number of divisions of illegal private armies he's had to go get resources in Ukraine. Again, remember, these are brigades that are expeditionary brigades. They're not defending Kiev against the onslaught of little green men from Putin. They're getting on Dnepr Airlines planes and going to Africa and getting land and training mercenaries in Africa. That's what they're doing. There's 30 brigades. I had said that there was 3 Dnepr brigades and 1 Azov brigade, but there's 30 brigades that, and as we send more and more people to these joint exercises to Europe, we leave more and more equipment, more and more material. We train more and more special forces there, again, to take land, mainly in Africa and the Middle East. But here, it's just a little bit of the. This is Glenn Beck. Talked a little bit about Kolomoisky. We're gonna dig and dive in on Kolomoisky because he is this new Mark Rich, and he is such a central character, and that's why we're putting this effort into bringing this out to you. So we're kind of picking up where Glenn Beck left off with his Ukraine Gate presentations and bringing it to you. Again, this is in rough draft form. We're going to do it more in a formal form. When we actually get the whiteboard and so forth. But here's Kolomoisky. There he is. He's got this soccer club in Dnepr there. And I can't read backwards, so it's hard for me to see all the things I'm putting up here. But there he is. He's got these private armies, but he's also in everything you can imagine, in all these different metals, ferrometals. Typically, these steel alloys are used in the nuclear industry, the aviation industry, submarines, airplanes, etc. And then you've got these private armies here that are being used all over. And this is the great untold story of Ukraine. This is a proxy. This is a funnel. Americans are silly enough to keep throwing billions and billions into it. These guys like Cofer Black are smart enough to then take the money and divert it for their own interests in Africa, mainly. Remember, Africa, 3 times the size of the continental United States, so North America, I believe. So lots of resources there for the taking. Don't go by your Mercator maps to realize how big Africa is. You see all these business interests, well, all these mining interests, and these Optima is the name of his company, mining company. He has many, by the way. It's a whole network through 5 different proxies Kolomoisky has. You can see these different metals companies in the United States, mainly operating through Florida and mainly operating in Ohio. Remember, you have the Vinmans with metals companies and different hedge funds for investing in things like titanium and tungsten and these rare earth metals and these metals that are important for creating cell phones and so forth, the tantalum and so forth. But if you just look at it, Feldman Trading in New Jersey, CC Metals in Delaware, Feldman Production in Delaware, Hallowell Associates in the British Virgin Islands. We went to the British Virgin Islands and showed you some of these cutouts. These are going to be companies that enable the Iran nuclear deal. This is a massive Manhattan project for Iran, and this Kolomoisky is the key guy who enabled it. And we'll show you through Oleg Deripaska how some of the material was got to Iran, not just Iran, but all the countries, the rogue countries that have nuclear ambitions, like North Korea, like Libya before that, like Iran and Iraq and so forth. Here we go. You say, well, this is just a band of people that are buying Joe Schmidt's AK-47s. No, that's a field artillery piece there. That's a private army with that field artillery piece. Satellite guided imaging and mapping cartography for a private piece. Now this leads us to this, if coronavirus is such a world threat, then why are we doing what's called Europe 20 right now? Harry the Greek has some great articles about this right now, but Europe 20 is, I think, about 12 to 14 different nations of Europe are participating in joint military exercises. Started in February, going to go all the way through the summer. These are 29 different states in the United States, or maybe 23 different states in the United States that are going to send over from their state militias. State militias are going to send over and do joint exercises with NATO. Again, we leave a lot of the material. Again, this is where a lot of the relationships are struck with mercenaries. And then they're going to come back. During the middle of this coronavirus, where we're shutting down travel to Europe, we're going to be sending 23 different National Guard units from 23 different states over to train with NATO. Does that sound like a pandemic waiting to happen? Does that sound like something that would exacerbate a pandemic? Yes. The answer is yes. So why? Again, we have a lot of data coming in about coronavirus. I believe the reason why I'm going ahead with this charrette is what you would normally do is have one strain of a very highly contagious light strain to basically shut down schools, and you can talk about epidemiology and how it's taking over the world, and you can clamp down on people and make them stay in their homes and so forth. But for the people, once you fix people at a location, that's when you come in with your second deadly virus. And if the person dies from the second deadly virus, you can chalk it up to the first one, saying, well, they died in the corona pandemic. Remember, we get cruise missiles from Norfolk saying, we're going to Waco your family, we're going to flamethrowers, we're going to wipe your family out. I consider that much more of a threat from somebody who supplies SEAL Team 6 with their special ops gear. We're going to Waco your family, we're going to Jonestown your family. I consider that much bigger of a threat than coronavirus. So that's why we're going forward. And we won't let this message be dampened or stifled. So I just we're just introducing you stuff, evidence and so forth, and going deeper than Glenn Beck's presentation to give you a little bit of an idea here. He owns television stations, Kolomoisky does. He owns all these gas companies, oil companies, metals companies, tungsten, titanium, uranium, all these very expensive specialty metals. And in Florida, his two key guys, again, are Fruman and Parnas and OKNY Ansky. The same people. They're buyers, they're brokers in Florida for these businesses. Optima is the Optima Metals, specialty metals, are going to be the people that are being presented as whistleblowers by Adam Schiff. These people have an IP address, secure connection with Adam Schiff and Peter Strzok. This is a fake. This, not the coronavirus, but the fact that Kolomoisky somehow is not a proxy for the CIA is a fake. He is the proxy for the CIA. He is the guy who took over for Mark Rich, and that's just the way it is. So anyway, we're going to leave it there tonight. We're going to just present a little bit more information every night so that you understand what the real situation is, what the real network is, and we can take it from there. Okay, thanks everybody. Look forward to coming down. All the spots here are taken, but you can still come down, find places on the island, and participate in the day sessions, and then we'll, of course, probably go over to Virginia at night because the bars and restaurants are still open over there, and we'll be out here on the water here every night. And the idea here is your message won't be shut down. Your mind will not be. I see the ospreys coming in here building this nest. They're beautiful. You're going to see all that. You're going to see the bald eagles moving inland. And so it's going to be a great week to just absorb other great minds and think and put your voice out there in a coordinated messaging so that it's bigger than just yourself, so that you're not staying at home all by yourself with no voice. The idea here is to get through to the world out there through a coordinated, shared charrette. So we'll leave it there. Thanks everybody, and we'll see you all tomorrow.